Hi, everybody. I am Jen Baker. I am the behaviorist in Benicia Unified School District, and this is our second video for Ask Me Anything. And this is where parents in Benicia can email me and ask me any question related to problematic behavior, problem during home routines, or online learning, and I do my best to give you a useful answer. So here is our question. My child, a fourth grader, cannot avoid distracting himself with the other fun options on the computer when he should be paying attention in class or doing his work. Whether it's YouTube, GChat, or Spotify, they all completely distract him from the task at hand. Is there a way to selectively block these sites on his school account or help him build the skills to avoid temptation? I cannot tell you, this is probably the number one difficulty that we're seeing across the ages. A lot of parents have brought this up. It's such a great question. So I'm going to go at it from two different answers. One's shorter and easier, one's a little longer. They both have pros and cons. So we'll start with shorter and easier first. Your first option is to control or restrict access to the sites, to actually use software to block access to certain sites. And there's a lot of programs, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the pros of this is for the busy parents, and I know a lot of you are wearing a lot of hats right now and working full time and juggling a lot. Once you get it up and running, once you get the software installed, it's low effort. Okay, you don't have to put a lot of time in. It's good if you're not there to supervise in person, and you get an immediate effect. Assuming your kid can't figure out a way to work around it, which has happened too, but it does work immediately. Some of the cons are you have to pay money, and it doesn't teach self-control. It is kind of a Band-Aid. But I think if you're at the point of needing a Band-Aid instead of actually teaching self-control, that is an okay option for some right now. Because again, if they were in school, they would have more structure and more supervision probably than is possible at home. So if you're at the point that this is your option, nothing to be ashamed about, consider getting software to actually do the work for you for the most part. I have not used these products. I do not work for either of these companies. These are just two of the ones that came up in some of my parent meetings. One is called Web Watcher, and their site says products easy to install in 5 minutes or less, discreet, tamper-proof. All recorded data is sent to a secure web-based account, which allows you to monitor remotely from any device. So this parent was actually able to check in at any time and do spot checks to see what her child was doing on the computer. There was another one called Circle. Award-winning parent controls let you manage screen time and monitor not just some, but all websites. On the go solution, you set the rules for sites. So I think this was the one where you can actually make certain sites unavailable, like during school hours, so that they can only use the approved sites. So these are just two options. There are a lot out there. But again, one of the major cons with this is they cost money. From what I looked into, just these two products, we're looking at $100 or more. So not cheap. But if you're at the point where you need a faster, less time intensive solution, this may be the way that you want to go. For those of you that want to take the longer route but are more concerned with, my child is a little older, they're at a point where I'd really like them to start learning some self-control, is we can actually teach self-control. It's free for the most part to teach, and we're talking about very good positive long-term effects. Okay. The cons are it takes more time and effort. Like behavior change just doesn't happen. It's going to take more of our time and effort, and the effects aren't immediate. It's not like we give them a pill and they suddenly have self-control. Behavior change and learning and skill development is more of a process. Okay, doable, but a process. So, like I mentioned in video one, our behavior change mantra, no matter what it is that we want our kid to stop doing or start doing, we always look at it with there's three things, three parts to this equation. One is we need to be very clear about deciding what it is that we expect. Then we need to teach what we want. Then we need to reinforce what we want. Okay, so let's talk about the first one, deciding what you want. And again, if you've seen any of my other videos, I talk about this in almost every single one because it really is the foundation. Is you need to prioritize and set up your expectations. One of my favorite ways to do this is a behavior matrix, and there's a whole column on it on the parent webpage that takes you step by step on how to do it. It has how-to videos and examples and templates, but basically you would create an expectation matrix together. Now, here's a couple that I found that focus on online learning. One is from one of our elementary schools, Matthew Turner. Following digital citizenship rules, using only approved websites and apps, muting the microphone when others are speaking, being courteous to teacher and classmates. I also found another one called an e-learning matrix online, which I thought was pretty cool. It was from a school that has the 3 R's, resilient, respectful, and responsible. If you have questions about something you read or see, ask your parent. If you need help with your device, have your parents call this number. Use your skills for learning, eyes watching, ears listening, voice quiet, stay on topic, stay focused on the assigned task, take proper care of your device. There's lots of different ones. And again, these are just examples. You would individualize this to what your expectations are for your child, depending on the context of your home, but of course also depending on their age. Some of these examples are a little young. So if you have a teenager, you make age appropriate expectations using age appropriate language. So that's deciding what you want. Teaching what you want. Games and activities are a great way to do this. You do have your learning matrix, or hopefully your behavior expectations matrix that you can refer to. But there's also games and activities. There's some ideas. I have a screenshot here from the parent webpage. These are just a handful, like just a few that I found online about teaching self-control and trying your best. There's a great website called Teachers Pay Teachers. And I know you guys are parents and teachers right now, but there are some really good materials and things that can be fun. That are usually at a very nominal cost, $1, $3, $5, that kind of thing for you to download. So self-control worksheets and activities. These were some of the favorites I found. They're linked on my webpage. Self-control boot camp, distance learning in Google Classroom. This is for grades 4 to 8. Self-control activities, self-regulation distance learning. That's grades 3 to 5. So you can see it's pretty cheap. But there are lots of ideas and things that you can do on there. This is another one that I thought was really cute. This is obviously for littler kids, developmentally younger kids, 3 to 10 years old. They talk about all you really need is like bubbles, like the kind of bubbles that you blow. And it's a way to broach the topic the first time of what does self-control mean and what does it mean to resist temptations and inhibit impulses. So basically the idea is you have your kids sit down, or if you have a couple of kids, have them sit around, explain that you're going to blow bubbles in the air. And the first time you do it, they can pop them however they want. Okay. Once they're all popped, you do it again, but this time you instruct them not to pop them, not to touch them. Not even if one lands on them, they just have to leave it, okay? So then we have to connect the dots. So what are we trying to demonstrate here? Then we go in to explain that the feeling of really wanting to do something, but holding back and not doing it is called self-control. So really wanting to pop the bubble, but not doing it, that's noticing and then using self-control to wait. Talk about how they felt resisting the temptation, because it's not easy to resist temptations. You can connect it with real life situations, such as resisting the temptation to navigate to other websites during Zoom class. And you can even do it a few times and get really excited and praise them for being able to inhibit their impulses and not pop the bubbles. You can praise them for actually using self-controlled in this kind of safe and structured situation. So these are just, that's just one way that you can teach. Another way is, this is kind of a behavior basic. It's called behavioral skills training. It's a 4-step approach that it is evidence-based, meaning that it's, it works and it's pretty straightforward. So the first step is instruction. Again, this is kind of overlapping with what we've already talked about, but telling your child what to do. You're most likely already doing this, but the problem is a lot of us start and finish on this step. I've told you 50 million times to do it already, but you're not. And the point here is that this is the first step, but it's not all the steps. Effective teaching should include more than just repeating ourselves until we're blue in the face. So the next step is to actually model. Modeling exactly what's expected. You can do, showing your child what to do in the actual target situation, like sitting down in their desk and showing them what it is that you're talking about when you're saying, I am 100% focused on this. I am not multitasking or doing anything else. Rehearsal, where you actually like role play and allow them to try it. We want to make sure that they're doing it right. Okay. And again, in this kind of example about staying in the classroom and not navigating away, modeling and role playing with a teenager is probably not necessary. Okay. But in general, we have to remember that teaching isn't just telling. Teaching is also modeling. Teaching is practicing, the same way as if we were teaching an academic skill. We're not just going to use words to explain math. We're going to demonstrate problems. We're going to allow them to practice. And then we get to one of the most important steps, which is giving feedback. And we need to catch them when they get it right. I came in twice today and you were engaged in the lesson and you weren't, on another website. Don't wait until they've practiced incorrectly. Even if you come in and they have navigated away, we want to correct errors the same way we would as if we were teaching math. We're not going to get mad at them if they get a math problem wrong. So the same thing, even though it's a lot more emotional when it comes to behavior that you've talked about a million times, we come in and we redirect them to what's expected. And then we look for the next opportunity to catch them when they get it right. So some of the common problems with behavior skills training is we don't provide enough examples. We don't provide enough practice opportunities. We do too much talking and not much else. We let them practice it the wrong way or let them get away with it. And then we have to kind of backtrack and reteach. And not acknowledging or providing tangible reinforcement when they get it right. We have to remember that reinforcement is the glue that makes behaviors stick, especially behaviors that are hard or new. Okay, so that's our last step. So we've decided what we want and we've prioritized. We've taught what we want. Now we need to reinforce what we want. So what's in it for them to try their best, to do something hard, to do something they don't want to do, especially during online learning, which is really difficult for a lot of kids. It's just teachers are really doing their best, but teaching online is just harder and it's not the same as being in person with one another. You don't have the social pressure of like face-to-face settings. You don't have your friends around you. So I talk more about this in the first video, which is on the YouTube channel and also linked on the Parent Padlet. But sometimes just acknowledging when they get it right, giving them attention, that may work for some kids, but if it doesn't, you may need to look at some more tangible incentives that in order to get iPad in the evening or access to their cell phone, there's certain basic expectations they need to meet. So it can be as specific as a behavior contract or a star chart, or it can be a little more informal that like when you want to do this stuff in the evening, this is what it needs to look like during the day. Some need that little extra bit to get over the hump of doing something hard or new. So again, if you want to learn more about anything that I talked about today, there are plenty of videos on the YouTube channel that are a little longer. We have lots of examples and resources on the Parent Padlet. And thanks for listening, and I'll see everybody next time. Bye for now.